Yellowstone Caldera Supervolcano by Katherine Daniels. Yellowstone National Park is a national park located primarily in the state of Wyoming. It also extends into Montana and Idaho. It was established by the U.S. Congress and signed into law by President Grant on March 1, 1872. Yellowstone, widely held to be the first national park in the world, is known for its wildlife and its many geothermal features, especially the Old Faithful Geyser, one of the most popular features in the park. Located astride the Continental Divide, most of the park occupies a high plateau surrounded by mountains and drained by several rivers. Did you know Yellowstone is home to the largest collection of geysers, hot springs, mud pots, and fumaroles in the world? From the punctual eruptions of the famous Old Faithful Geyser to the constantly changing terrace of the Mammoth Hot Spring, Yellowstone National Park is a geologist's heaven. Shaken by up to 5,000 earthquakes per year. Why is Yellowstone so active? And how did it form? At the heart of Yellowstone's past, present, and future lies volcanism. Catastrophic volcanic eruptions occurred here. But where? Geologists believe Yellowstone sits over a hotspot, a plume of superheated rock rising from the Earth's mantle. As North America slowly drifted over the hotspot, the Yellowstone plume punched through the continent's crust, leaving a breadcrumb trail of calderas created by massive volcanic eruptions along the Idaho Snake River Plain, leading straight to Yellowstone. Volcanic activity began in Yellowstone National Park region a little before 2 million years ago. Molten rock rising from deep within the earth produced 3 cataclysmic eruptions more powerful than any of the world's recorded history. The first caldera-forming eruption occurred about 2.1 million years ago. The eruptive blast removed so much magma from its subsurface storage reservoir that the ground above it began to collapse into the magma chamber and left a giant depression in the ground. A hole larger than the state of Rhode Island. The huge crater, known as Caldera, measured as much as 80 kilometers long, 65 kilometers wide, and hundreds of meters deep, extending from outside of Yellowstone National Park into the central area of the park. Later, activity shifted to a small region within the Island Park area of eastern Idaho, just southwest of Yellowstone, and produced another large caldera-forming eruption 1.3 million years ago. And another huge eruption 640,000 years ago formed the Yellowstone caldera as we see. The 3 caldera-forming eruptions respectively were about 6,700 and 2,500 times larger than the May 18, 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens in Washington state. Together, the 3 catastrophic eruptions expelled enough ash and lava to fill the Grand Canyon. In addition to the 3 climatic eruptions, activity associated with each of these 3 caldera cycles produced dozens of hundreds of small eruptions that produced both lava and pyroclastic materials. What is a caldera volcano? Caldera volcanoes are the extreme volcanoes. These are the most powerful and catastrophic types of volcanoes in a category by themselves, because of the unique way in which they are formed. This type of volcano is shaped more like an inverse volcano. An enormous magma chamber bulges up from beneath the ground from the extremely high pressures of the trapped gases within. Ring-shaped cracks form outward from the magma chamber toward the surface and act as relief valves for the magma to escape. Once the accumulated pressure has been sufficiently released through a series of extremely powerful pyroclastic eruptions, the ground above the magma chamber subsides or caves in, leaving a large depression. Caldera volcanoes are the largest on Earth, with some calderas measuring from 15 to 100 kilometers wide.
Yellowstone has up to 5,000 earthquakes a year. even though it's in the stable heart of the North American continent.
Why is Yellowstone known as the supervolcano? The Yellowstone caldera is the largest volcanic system in North America. It has been deemed supervolcano because the caldera was formed by exceptionally large explosive eruptions. Gigantic reservoirs of molten rock, which created Yellowstone's crater when lava erupted out of the ground above, collapsed into the space left behind. The seismic waves still slow down under Yellowstone today, still showing the magma chamber still lurks under the park. It's more than 30 miles long, 25 miles wide, 5 miles in depth, but its size alters from year to year. The volcano is the most directly identified with the Yellowstone region, has during the past 2 million years built an immense volcanic plateau that straddles a high mountain divide, the Yellowstone Plateau volcanic field. This volcanic region has evolved through 3 cycles of voluminous outpourings of rhyolite lava and volcanic ash, each of them climaxing with one of Earth's greatest pyroclastic flows, eruptions, and resulting collapse of the central area to form a large caldera. Yellowstone caldera isn't like typical volcanoes. It is known to be an active volcano, but it cannot be seen with the naked eye. So where is it?
All of the evidence about the size of the super eruption helped solve the mystery of the missing volcano. Scientists realized that the super eruption was so enormous that it must have blown the volcano to pieces. Geophysicist Robert Christensen realized that rock formations he had been studying for several years all around the edges of the park, in fact, formed a giant circular ridge. He compared his findings on the ground with a series of NASA pictures taken between 1966 and 1970, confirming that the ring was the rim of a giant crater 45 miles across. Parts of the crater rim are still clearly visible today, but the other edge is almost out of sight.
How imminent is an eruption of the Yellowstone volcano? There is no evidence that a catastrophic eruption at Yellowstone National Park is imminent. Current geological activity at Yellowstone has remained relatively constant since Earth scientists first started monitoring some 30 years ago. Although a caldera-forming eruption is possible, it is unlikely to occur in the next 1,000 or even 10,000 years. However, if the Yellowstone volcano erupted again, it would cover much of North America in an ash blanket of varying thickness. The ash is thick, more than about 30 centimeters of ash near the eruption source, and a small fraction of a milliliter once you move 2,000 miles away. It's fair to say that a trace of ash would be found over most of the United States, though it would only be thick enough to collapse roofs in the states closest to Yellowstone. Yellowstone's last full-scale outburst occurred 640,000 years ago, and the ones before that occurred 1.3 million and 2.1 million years ago, but each of these events was a tad smaller than the one before. The geologic hotspot could be growing cold, or it might just have one last hurrah.